the explanation al pi is both, and the bidur matalali, which generally we understand essential, because the nefesh b'amis still stays in nefesh b'amis against the nefesh elokis, so then nefesh b'amis would do that. So how do you have the advantage of both? The bittul from above, but the internalization, explain that al pi seichel. Now again, we said earlier, and it is two opposite realities. That's because Yechid is beyond Mavutal in the face of the Metzim, which is beyond both, beyond limitation, beyond limitation, beyond finite, beyond infinite. Okay, here the Rabbi is saying a different shot. He's explaining it al pi seichel. We'll just start at Ches because we read a little bit, but we'll start there again. Vinyanhu, the cave and shakavana be readers from the Filas and the Tzutzet zu b'chdei she'avad is baradu v'yachzerulim came in order that since the intention of the descent of the sparks of holiness that is a result of Shvi, of last week's parsha, v'yimlech v'yomas, which of course, the panemius of those psukim regarding the malachim of Esav is the whole idea of shviras hakelim, v'yimlech v'yomas. They died, shvira, and it only affected malchus. It did not affect higher levels of reality. Dafka v'yimlech v'yomas. The fact that the sparks of holiness descend down into klipa is bikdei, because why would the Eibishter do such a thing? Why would the Eibishter take holy reality, his reality, and put it in a place where it's trapped in a reality that seems to be completely contrary to him? Bikdei, she's baradu v'yachzulim kemim. It's ultimately that they should be rectified and return to their source. And ultimately, we know that when they return to their source, they actually even get to a higher level than they were in terms of their source. They will be elevated even higher before their descent. And that's explained in different places in Chassidus, and that's not what the Rabbi is interested in talking about now. That's just a fact. Hare ein shayach. Now the Rabbi says something extremely important. And all of the Rebbeim emphasize this, but I think our Rebbe does more than anybody else, probably because Eilam Hazeh makes more noise now. I mean, it's not that Eilam Hazeh is any harder now than it ever was. It was always hard in Eilam Hazeh. But what's hard in Eilam Hazeh by us isn't so much the Eilam Hazeh of it, because mitzad our Eilam Hazeh, we have it pretty good, right? I mean, we rarely... Most generations in the history of the world, as a result of the existence of physical reality, faced tremendous physical hardships. Disease and cold and heat. And it was, how comfortable were they most of the time, right? The way they lived, what their house looked like. No, okay. It's not that. We've sort of figured that all out. Right? We've got it. We're pretty comfortable, right? I mean, if a person flies on a 12-hour airline and they go a distance that used to take 2 weeks and they do it in half a day, they complain that the seat wasn't comfortable enough. Like that's our lack of comfort. So you might, and of course you can buy something in the store that helps the seat, and so you put it on in your carry-on, then you take it out and you sit on it, and then now I feel okay, because United doesn't know how to make seats, but they do know how to get me 5,000 miles in 12 hours. That's pretty good, right? It used to take weeks. I remember once waiting in line in Kennedy. We were flying to LA, one of those early morning New York flights that you get into LA early in the morning also, and they for I don't know, TSA, right? The most organized people in the world. Someone got through without going through TSA. They were all upset. They took everybody out of the terminal and put us all back on the other side of security. Everybody at once. So now we're waiting in this interminable security line because everybody in the terminal is going through security at once. So we're all schmoozing. So I'm talking to the guy behind me, and we said, this is really annoying. We're going to get to LA 2 hours late. So then we realized, okay, it used to take 2 weeks in a wagon. It's going to take us 5 hours. Nope, it's going to take us 7 hours. Big deal. Like, what's the big deal? This used to take 2 weeks behind a horse in a wagon. You can imagine how uncomfortable that must have been. Where'd you sleep at night? Okay, wherever you slept, you got up in the morning. Where'd you shower in the morning? Where was your mikveh? Oh, it must have been dirty, the mikveh. What mikveh? What? It's like unbelievable.
Don't forget the Indians.
Also that, right? They were probably tamer than the movies made them out to be. But, who knows?
Yeah, how it said this woman's name, whole family there. She was scalped and murdered by the Indians on this date in 1950.
Wow.
I said, well, I thought it was only in the movies.
In the movies. Wow, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, I feel better now because I thought only white people were evil. I thought only white people did evil things. But Baruch Hashem, I feel better now. Everybody does. Oh, good. So Olam Hazeh for us, that part of Olam Hazeh we've taken care of. But Olam Hazeh makes more, because of that, Olam Hazeh makes on a certain level even more noise for us. Because we've got all this other stuff that's very, very tempting. And what exactly were the taivas of a Yid in Poland 150 years ago? What exactly were his sagas in taivas? I mean, what could he do exactly in order to have a taiva in Olam Hazeh? Right, what was there? Polish females. Okay, don't even want to go there. What was their taiva? Liquor. People would drink. I mean, that was basically the people who were into taivas, so they drank. Right? There was nothing else to do. Right? You have a taiva? Well, I'd imagine everybody in this room, even the people who don't have their own household yet, probably have a piece of plastic in their pocket that if they wanted to, they might not have the money for it, and it might, but if they wanted to, they could buy a ticket to just about anywhere in the world right now and go be on a beach within about 18 hours in a place that's as amazing as anywhere else in the world, and just hang out and drink, hot toddies, right? I mean, the amount of gashmis that we have is just, it's beyond belief, right? So that part of Olam Hazeh is much harder now. There's no question. That's hard. Okay, but, and the Rabbi talk about this constantly, the essential reality of Olam Hazeh is that it assists as opposed to fights the Inyan of Birur, the Inyan of rectification, the Inyan of Gilui Elokus. The Olam ultimately is interested in revelation. The Olam's the Gan, not the desert. To put it simply, as we've talked about many times, as the Rabbi refers to it, Basi Lagani. I mean, it's Shlomo Melech, I understand, but that's the mimer most commonly said by our Rabbi, right? Over 40 times, the Rabbi said a mimer called Basi Lagani. What's Olam Hazeh? It's a gun. What's the gun for? It's the place to connect Elokus, and therefore, essentially, it is not in opposition to that reality. Right. Even though in a revealed way it is. There's no question, in a revealed way it is. And that's what the Rabbi says here. Therefore, it's not relevant. We saw this last time. It was the end of the class. That there should be any mania v'ikuv, any opposition or obstruction, mitzad nitzutzes, mitzad the sparks of the world, la bitter shalem, to their bitter. They want to be elevated. The world wants to be elevated. The world wants to come to a state of revelation. Right? The mashal that's brought in Tanya from the Zohar, the Rizal. I don't think it's Chazal. If it's Zohar, it's Chazal, but I don't think it's found in Nigla. Right, of the prince who hires the harlot to seduce her son. Okay, fine. What does the harlot want? She wants him to not fall prey to her seductions. But what's her job? Her job is to seduce him as best she can. But she's rooting for the prince. Why? She's a subject of the prince like everybody else. She loves the prince. She doesn't want the prince to fall prey to her klipa. She wants the prince to be the prince. But she has to do her job as best she can. Right? And the prince is sent to her with a bag of money around his neck. Right? That's the mashal. That's Olam Hazeh. Okay. Ein shaykh she'ab ezem meniya v'ikuv mitzad nitzusel abira shalahem. And now the Rabbi, this is the last thing we saw last time in such an amazing line. The fact that it's possible liyos mania v'ikuv, that there could be some sort of obstruction to our avodah, something that prevents us from serving the Eibusher properly. Rak mitzad adam. It's only mitzad the person doing the birur. Hamavader. Why? Sheyesh la bechir chofshis. Yes, bechir chofshis. You can choose not to. You can choose to get into the klipa instead of elevate the spark. But that's mitzad him. What's the spark want? The spark's dying to be elevated. Right? I think we told the story right there. The Rabbi was once eating with the Frierdiker Rebbe, and 3 or 4 times the food fell off his fork, and he smiled and said, "I guess it's not ready." This piece of food doesn't want to be elevated yet. Right? Okay. Just kept falling off his fork. Right? So now, in other places in Chassidus, and you all know this, of course, we also talk about the fact that the etzem mitzias of the mevader, of the Adam, is also that he wants elokus. That's what we're talking about here. Right? That even mitzad the person who has the bechira chavshis, he doesn't really want the bechira chavshis. He has the bechira chavshis because that's the way the world works. But it is very important to understand that this whole idea of bechira chavshis, obviously the Eibusher gave us bechira chavshis, but this isn't, and on a certain level it's a gift to the extent that it allows what we do to be real and matter, because it's possible not to do it. So if you say thank you to a person, so that thank you means something, because you might not say thank you. Right? It's possible that you won't be sensitive to the fact that a person just did a teva for you. So since you say thank you, so the thank you means something. But if you were just programmed to say thank you without any possibility ever of receiving something from another person without saying thank you, then thank you wouldn't mean anything. Right? When you do it in those machines, right? When you click in and out of workplace and it says Toda. I mean, I'm glad that whoever programmed it put in the Toda, but I don't think the machine is showing any true appreciation of the fact that I put my finger in the right place on the right angle.
Not yet. When AI will fix it.
Maybe.
You'll get the love.
I'll get the love, okay. Will it hug me?
Probably.
I can't wait. Okay, so we have Bechira Chavshis. Now, on the deepest level, we don't have that either. Okay, but within the context of our existence, we do. Right? Do you really exist? No. You're Batal Mavutal, and the Raya was this morning when Yaakov was listening to the test on the bus. He didn't show up. He's a 0. He's Ephes. He's Batal Mavutal. He's not even there. It's amazing. It's incredible. Okay. So that's my true existence, but there also happens to be a level in which we do exist, and that level we have Bechira Chavshis. There's no question. Aval mitzad and mitzutzes, in terms of the sparks, muchrach sheis baru. It's absolutely necessary that it should be redeemed. That's their whole purpose. Now the Rabbi says an amazing thing. Now it's interesting. There's no footnote here. What the Rebbe is about to say. There's a footnote beside the pasuk, where the pasuk is from. There's no footnote in terms of the source of this idea, but it happens to be that the idea is almost word for word from the Mittler Rebbe. And why there's no footnote is stuck interesting. I don't know, but it happens to be that someone pointed out recently. Someone pointed out to me that they read me the quote from the Mittler Rebbe that's almost word for word. Right? It's very interesting, but anyway. There's no footnote here, for whatever reason. A very interesting taich in a simple pasuk in Malachim. Shlomo Melech is building the Beis Hamikdash, and he appoints someone named Adoniram to be in charge of the taxes that people had to pay in order to pay for the Beis Hamikdash. Right? Obviously, people gave money to help pay for it. Right? V'zeu ma shekosav Adoniram al Hamas. Right? Adoniram, what's Adoniram? Who Adoni Ram. Adoni is my master. Ram, lofty, transcendent. So what's Adoni? Who Shem Adni. This Shem that's pronounced Adoi and then Nai. Right? That name. Right? Adni, who al derech Shem Adni. Bechina Shchinte, Malchus. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is obviously not Malchus. We know that. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is transcendent godly reality. But we pronounce it Adni, which is Adon, which is Din, which is Malchus. Right? That's how it's pronounced. So, but there's also a name, Adni, Shem Aleph Dalet. There's such a name. And what is that name? Malchus. Din, restriction, constriction. Bechina Shchinte. Shchinte is Malchus. V'Ram, what's Ram? And of godly light, infinite godly light that's beyond worlds. Kuchabrichu. When we talk about L'Shem Shchinte, we're talking Male, a yichud of transcendent, infinite godly light with immanent, restricted godly reality. Okay. Talked about it many times. The yichud of Seviv and Mamale, which is the ultimate purpose of things, to bring transcendent godly light into a state of revelation in this physical world. So that's Adoni Ram. Adoni Ram is Adoni Ram. Malchus and Orein Seif. Mamale and Seviv. V'Ram miloshin reimamus hu Orein Seif shelamayla mi'elamus kuchabrichu. V'alpiyam avor lekaman, as is going to be explained in the next in Sif Yud at the end. The inyan of birurim, what's birurim all about? Liyachta kuchabrichu shchinte, to bring about a unity of kuchabrichu, which is Seviv, u'shchinte, and Shina, which is Mamale, Malchus. Okay, therefore, what's pshat in this pasuk? V'yesh leima, the Rabbi says, the mas hu inyan abirurim, and what's the mas? Mas is taking something and elevating it up to the king. What do you do? It's interesting. What's a tax? A tax, you take what you have and you give it to the king. You elevate it, right? Okay. So how do you elevate it? By bringing about a yichud of Adoni and Ram. Bring about a yichud of Seviv, and it was first Mamale. But in general, we talk about the yichud of Seviv, transcendent reality, and Mamale, immanent reality. Yeah. So let's see what's that about. What does that mean? Right? But what's a mas? So interesting, it's called a mas. What's the Rabbi want to prove? The Rabbi just talked about the fact that the lower realm wants to be elevated. It wants to reconnect to its source in Elokus. Those sparks want to be elevated. And not only do they want to be elevated, on a certain level, there's a necessity that they be elevated. Okay, well, what's a mas? A mas is something you have to pay. You have a choice, and we'll tell a story in a minute, but you don't have a choice to pay the mas. V'niku b'shem mas, why? Shemasu davar shemuchrach l'shalom. You have to pay it. Right? The government sends you a piece of paper with a mas, so you pay it. I mean, there's not much you can do about it.
Say no mas.
No mas. Yeah. Don't tell them. We don't want to go there. Come on. They didn't even know who Sugar Ray Robinson is. They're not going to know what this is. Come on. They're not going to know. What?
Sugar Ray Robinson was.
Oh.
Was it Gemara class?
Yeah, it's Gemara.
Gemara class. I mentioned, this is like, I said the Sugar Ray Robinson of something, meaning, pound for pound.
Yeah.
Ask the dog. They were looking like, who's Sugar Ray Robinson? So then someone said, you mean Sugar Ray Leonard? I said, no, that's not who I mean. That's no mas. Right, no mas. Who said who did what? I guess he he was fighting Sugar Ray Leonard?
He wouldn't get up because
right.
No mas.
No mas. He said, I can't take any more. No mas.
He was amazing.
No mas. There you go. We're not going there. No mas. There you go. So we don't want mas. We don't want taxes. Oh, ubechinas adoniram hu machriach kevias mas. What's that? That's what forces the paying of the mas. Now, in simple pshat, that's who he was. But what is it in Panemius? What is it that brings about the elevation of the nitzutzes? The yichud of Seviv and Mamale, bringing transcendent reality down into your conscious reality. Well, that's what this whole mimer has been about, bringing the yechida into your everyday life. Oh, bitter nitzutzes. That's how you elevate the mas. That's that pshat, and that's the pshat in that one tiny little pasuk in Malachim, v'adiniram alamas.
That's what makes your prayers new every day.
Right. Also that, right? It's going to come up. Right. So there just happens to be a great story with the Rogachover. The Rogachover, Mistama, he didn't read Russian very well. So his grandson was staying with him, and 2 letters came from the government. And they were both asking for taxes for something. So the grandson explained to the Rogachover what was written in the thing, what it was all about. So he said, pay that one and don't pay that one. So the grandson said, Zaidi, you can't not, you have to pay them both. They sent them both. You have to pay. He said, no. That mas is al-pi Torah. That mas is not al-pi Torah. You don't have to pay the mas. It's not al-pi Torah. It has no mitzias. It's not al-pi halacha. You don't have to pay that mas. They have no halachic jurisdiction to ask for that mas. They do have for that one. So pay that one. Don't pay that one. So the kid said, okay. So he went to pay it. And about a week or 2 later, a letter came in the mail to ignore the second mas. That was the Rogachover. The Rogachover was all about halacha, right? That was the Rogachover. They say he didn't learn Chassidus. They say, I don't know whether that's really true. They say he didn't learn Chassidus. And the reason that he said, this is what they say, obviously I didn't hear it with my own ears, the reason that he said he didn't learn Chassidus is because it's hard for him to learn something that he doesn't know all of it. When he learned Nigla, so anything he learned it in the context of knowing it all. So that, he didn't know all of Chassidus, so he found it too frustrating to learn it because he didn't know really what it was saying. He didn't know everything. Right? Yaakov, you should like the Rogachover. What did you have in common with the Rogachover? Do you know what you had in common with the Rogachover?
Red hair.
I don't know, red. I don't think he was a redhead. He had long hair. He had long hair, right. He had long hair because he wouldn't take his kippah off long enough to cut it. Because he said he couldn't think thoughts of Torah without his kippah on, and he didn't want to take off his kippah, so he wouldn't cut his hair.
Another gear says that I think it hurt. Like that, you hear this, that it hurt him, the cutting of the hair. We don't have that feeling.
That's
that
sensitivity. He also said that he was over a certain Isser every day of his life, that he couldn't not think thoughts of Torah when he was in the washroom. He just couldn't do
I
it.
heard that there was, I think this came from about that, whether it was like a bit of a nazir or something.
Could be that, but he had long hair. It was white. I mean, the pictures we see was white. Right? It's definitely a special Jew. He just knew everything. He was very sharp. He was extremely sharp. He had no patience for narishkeit. Someone once sent him a question in Nigla, and he wrote back 13 teisvasim that the guy should look up. So the guy looks through the 13 teisvasim, can't figure out. They have nothing to do with the question he asked. So, but the Rogachover said, so he's looking and looking and looking. What did he finally realize? Every single teisvus had a word in common: shaita. Idiot. That was the Rogachover. He was like that, evidently. He was evidently just unbelievably sharp with, like he just didn't have. They say that he wouldn't, he would answer his door and say, "What's the question?" If you didn't have a halakha question, he just wasn't interested. Nanas tells a story that he was a bacher, so they went to the Rogachover. He and another Talmud went to the Rogachover. They knocked on the door, and the Rogachover said, opened the door and said, "Vos is the shaila?" And they said, "Mirzana Tamimim, or Tamimim." Come in. And talked to them for a couple of hours, wanted to know what's going on. What are they doing? Rabbi Nanas, Laser Nanas.
Oh.
Right? What's going on? What are you doing? How do you support yourself? And everything. At one point in the conversation, that's not for now, but for breaking someday. One point in the conversation, so the Rogachover asked them exactly how they're making a living, and it came, and he said, after they told him what they were doing, he said, "Does the Rebbe know?" So Rav Nana said, "As a bacher, the Rebbe knows everything." Like, so the Rogachover said, "I don't think you appreciate who your Rebbe is." He was talking about the Frierdiker Rebbe. So the Rogachover, Rav Nanas was a smart enough person to be quiet. Said, "No." So the Rogatchover told him, he said, your Rebbe, every night before he goes to sleep, he looks through the neshamas of every chassid he has, sees how he can helps them, and only then does he shut his eyes for a few hours. So that's your Rebbe. That's what the Rogatchover said about the Frierdiker Rebbe. Right. Mr. No Learning Chassidus. He was a very interesting person. They just don't make them like that anymore. Right. He was just also a character. I mean, there's no question. He was just a character, the Rogatchover for a bracha. There was another Rav with him. It was a big Rav, big Litvisher Rav. And they were friends. And but a serious, serious Talmud Chacham, like not, the real thing. And they were talking Torah. That's no one. Rogatchover didn't talk anything else with anybody. And this woman came and asked for a bracha. So the Rogatchover said, "I don't give brachas. Not a rabbi. I don't give brachas." So the Rav said, "Well, but the Gemara in brachas says that the bracha of a hedyot, even the bracha of a simple person, is a very, very powerful thing. Kal v'chemer v'kol shekein, the bracha of the Rogatchover guy, all the more so your bracha." So the Rogatchover looked at him and smiled and said, "You can give her the bracha without the kal v'chemer." He was like that. This was a friend of his. Right? You can give him the bracha without the kal v'chemer. It's just a character. But, okay. So the Nitzitzes want to be elevated. V'yasedem, he said. Meaning, Olam Hazeh is really on our side, as crazy as that sounds. Right? V'yasedem, he said. Shenitzutzeis reitzin mishtekim lisbarer. V'zeu, and they're desirous, and mishtekim means they're longing to be elevated. V'zeu b'Rabbi Mayu Imodi, and this is what it means, b'Rabbi Mayu Imodi. Now, simple pshat and Rabbi Mayu, simple pshat, I shouldn't say that. The pshat in our Maimer of b'Rabbi Mayu Imodi is, b'Rabbi Mayu Imodi is the revelation of Yechid. This is all in the Mittler Rebbe's Maimer Poda besholom in Shari Tshuva, that it's the Makif Loli, it incorporates all reality, and therefore it's called Rabim. Everything that is ultimately comes from that place. Okay, so it's called Rabim. Fine. Here the Rebbe is going to talk about the simple pshat in Rabim. Right? V'zeu b'Rabim hayu imodi. Right? Shanitzutzeis animsoim b'bechinas Rabim. These sparks of holiness that are found in the place of Rabim. What does that mean? Reshusa Rabim, the domain of the many. Ture de Pruda, the mountains of separation. What's Reshusa Rabim in Panemius? Reshusa Rabim in Halacha is a public domain. What's Reshusa Rabim in Panemius? The domain of the many. The place where Hashem Echad is concealed. Right? Where you're aware of the many and not of the Yachid. What's Reshusa Yachid? Reshusa Yachid is where Hashem Echad is revealed. Reshusa Rabim is where Hashem Echad is concealed, not revealed. Right? That's Reshusa Rabim. So Kibbur Rabim Ayu Imadi, that even in the Rabim, even in the Reshusa Rabim, even in the Ture are mountains, the Pruda of separation. Right? Even in that reality of tremendous separation, that reality where the oneness of the Eibishter is concealed very, very powerfully, Mishtekekim, they long, Shukah is a longing, Shiavara Isam, that someone will elevate them. That's Kibbur Rabim Hayu Imadi. That ultimately the Rabim wants to be Imadi with me. The Rabim wants to be elevated to be one with the Eibishter. And now the Rebbe brings the pshat that's usually brought in the Maimarim Poda besholom. What's the Poda besholom nafshi? David HaMelech. What's he talking about? That Anshe Avshalom were davening for the victory of David HaMelech, even though they were fighting for Avshalom, who was David HaMelech's son, but enemy. So they were davening that David HaMelech should be victorious, even though they had to do their job as soldiers. B'dugmas inyan b'Rabim hayu imadi b'pashtus. What's the pshat in the pasuk? Sha'anshe Avshalom hispalu l'nitzchonei shel David. Look in the footnote. The Yerushalmi. That's Kibbur Rabim hayu imadi. That the Anshe Avshalom wanted David HaMelech to emerge victorious, even though they were fighting him. So the world, which seems to fight us, ultimately wants us to be victorious and wants us to elevate it. Elo, the cave, and Shenitzutz him begolus bebechinas rabim, since these sparks of holiness are in a state of golus in the context of rabim, multiplicity, therefore a reality that hides the unity of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, ein ze begilui. The fact that it's not need mela adam, it can a person, I'm sorry, lifamim, the Rabbi says, sometimes it can appear to a person, the aspects of the world, not only do they not assist him in serving God, they seem to prevent him from serving God. Everybody blames the world. Because this concealment of the sparks of holiness in the world, who helam b'tachlis, is a very serious level of helam, an essential level of helam. Al derech helam she'ena b'metzias, to such an extent that something can be in such a state of helam that you're not sure that it exists. Right? There's a level of helam where I know it's around here somewhere, I just can't find it. When you lose your keys, you don't think your keys went out of existence. You know they exist, you just can't find them. Okay, so that's one state of helam, and that is a state of helam. There's no doubt about that. But then there's a state of helam when you don't even know that thing that's behelam exists. Oh, so it's possible to not know that this world is a place of unbelievable godliness. It's possible for a person to walk around in the world and not know that, and relate to the world. And even if they have some sort of appreciation of the fact that they're supposed to serve God, they'll see the world as the antithesis to that whole idea. Whereas ultimately, what's the world? The world's the place, it's the playground where it's all happening. I have to look at it the right way, I have to deal with it the right way. And there's no question that if I get into it too much, that it'll swallow me up. No question. A question that is asked often by the young women I teach that were educated in Lubavitch Mazdais, and it's interesting, it's Americans and Israelis. The Israelis also ask the same question. But the Rabbi wants us to be in the world, wants us to be part of the world. Okay, which world? The world that Goyim made or the world that God made? They get it mixed up. Because the Eibishter wants us in the world, so the Rabbi tells us to be part of the world. Which world? The Eibishter's world, not Netflix. That isn't the world that the Eibishter wants us to be part of. He wants us to be part of the world that the Eibishter created. The Eibishter created a physical world, and that world has its challenges, and it has its concealment, but the Eibishter wants us to go into that world and realize that ultimately what is it? It's all Him. And that's the challenge of Eilam Hazeh. And to not get carried away by all the external veneer. Right? Do I have to deal with the veneer? I have to deal with it. I can't make a living without dealing with it in most instances. Right? Okay. Some people get lucky, actually, they never really have to ever figure out how to make a living, but that's very rare, right? Most people have to figure out how to make a living at some point. So they have to deal with Eilam Hazeh somehow, okay? And even if they don't deal with Eilam Hazeh so powerfully when they make a living, they still have to deal with Eilam Hazeh when they pay their bills, right? The electric company is the electric company, for same electric company for everybody. It doesn't matter how you make your living. You make your living by running a business. You make your living by teaching Torah. Okay, teaching Torah is a nice way to make a living. There's no doubt about it. Same electric company, right? Same way, same banks. You still have to deal with all that stuff. Okay. How? Im yadeinu al elyoina. Do we have the upper hand in all this? Yeah, if we look at it right. If we look at it right. So the Rogachover gets a bill from the Russian government. The Russian government is, the Israeli electric company. Okay, you have to pay their bills, and they'll send you nasty letters, and they'll fine you, and and they'll even put an e-cool on your bank account. If you don't pay the bill, so they'll put something. What's an e-cool called on a bank account when they won't let you write checks?
Garnish.
What?
Like they'll garnish it.
So you'll get a thing that you didn't pay your bill, and the city of Yerushalayim does this a lot with parking tickets, because you never get your parking tickets, and you find out you had a parking ticket when you get a letter that in another week, if you don't pay your parking ticket, you're going to have your bank. So what parking ticket can I find? So there's a little number there. You go online and you pay your parking ticket. Who knew there was a parking ticket? Right, so that's the way you find out. Okay, so they can be nasty. I would imagine the Russian government was worse than that, right? The government that the Rogachover wasn't paying the tax for, I think they were probably a little nasty. But the Rogachover said, no, I'm not paying that one, I'm only paying that one. Right, okay. And he was right in the end. Val Yedei Aveda, look at that last page.
Don't try
Well-
this at home.
Yeah, try this at home. No,
Don't try
oh
this
yeah,
at
right,
home.
don't try this. I was just going to say that. Don't try this at home. Right. But wait, I now have to read the last line again. Which is that which brings about a yichud of memale and seve, because yichud of fish brings about both the Chassidus, Metzias. It's see what the Rabbi just said. He just said an unbelievable thing. When we deal with the world from a point of strength, coming from our, you have to have a gilu of yichida ad kedei kach that I consciously and resolve to act in accordance with that. Hahelim shein b'metzias danitzutzais. It affects the world. So now that state of desire of the nitzites to be housed in the spark of godliness, in that physicality the person's dealing with, v'atshuka shalem lizbat in Rabbi with me. By virtue of revealing the Rabbi Ma'imadi and Aveda, it's an unbelievable idea, the Rabbi. And they're aware of the fact that that's who I really am. That idea, that sensitivity to who we really are, and trying to keep that sensitivity in mind when we encounter the world. That arouses in the world that we're encountering a barabim, their level of barabim ayu imadi. What's their level? That anshe of shalom are davening for the victory of David HaMelech. That the world wants to be elevated, even though the world on one level seems to be fighting, but it doesn't really want to fight. But bechitzonius it's fighting, but pnimius it wants to be elevated and united with God. Even the rabbim wants to be imadi with me. Vachuka shalem lizbarar inyan barabim ayu imadi. Va'az then roim begilui, then we see in a revealed way shinyani ha'elam, the matters of the world. Loirak she'enim meini. Not only do they not prevent and serve as obstacles to the service of Hakadosh Baruch Hu, elam esayim le'avedus Hashem. They ultimately assist in the service of Hashem. Wow, unbelievable, unbelievable. So now the Rabbi explained on one level in Seichel how it works. He still didn't explain the details of it. Now the Rabbi is going to explain the details of it. So let's go. We have 10 minutes. Let's go. I'll just tell you a quick story that I heard last night in the Farbrengen online. Couldn't get out of my house. Just too tired. So sitting in my chair with the video off, just watching a Farbrengen. It was a nice Farbrengen. So Farbrengen, there were about 1,200 people from all over the world. Someone wanted to do a Farbrengen on Chav Kislev, that was shayach to uniting Jews all over the world. So between YouTube and Zoom, he had about 1,200 people, and people were talking. The hour I was listening, so someone from Australia spoke, someone from South Africa spoke, someone from Israel spoke. It's just beautiful. Man, it was such a nice, just beautiful. Australia was 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, right? So you could tell this was his Chassidus far downing. he was for bringing. So someone told a beautiful story that he heard firsthand, that he was called down south early. An older guy, 45, been in the army for years, high-ranking officer. He was called down very early, and he met a friend of his. The first guy is someone who has some connection to Yiddishkeit. He might even be from, I'm not sure, but called down with the second guy. The second guy is someone he's been in the army with for years. Both high-ranking officers, and knows nothing about anything Shayach Yiddishkeit. Mamish nothing. So the two of them ran down there together, and they were told, bring all the ammunition you have. So he said, you're only allowed too much. I mean, how much ammunition do I have in my house? There's a limit to what they allow you to have in your house. So he asked them as they were in contact as he was driving down. They said, well, then this is when he realized things were serious. They said, so take whatever you find from dead people.
Oh, wow.
And that's what they told him. Said, whatever ammunition you find from dead people, take it. So he said, whoa, what is going on down there? He didn't know. So they're driving, and they have pistols, right? Going into a war zone with pistols. So once they saw what was going on, they spent some time, Baruch Hashem, they actually was able to kill some people, and the right people, the people who are supposed to be killed. and they got some ammunition off those people. They took some rifles and some ammunition off those people, and they were going from place to place and doing unbelievable work. At one point, he said he has no clue. He said, where did this come from? His friend said to him, he's known this guy for 30 years. The guy's never said one word of Yiddishkeit. The guy said to him, if you and I make it out of here alive, I'm gonna be Shemer Shabbos.
Whoa.
He looked at him and said, where did that come from? Where would he even think of such an idea? This guy has no, I'll give charity. He started charity. Everybody started charity. He'll give some charity. Shemer Shabbos? That's completely mufrach for this person to say such a thing. It's not part of his conscious reality. It's not part of his conscious reality. It's part of his superconscious reality. It just came into consciousness. And sure enough, he's been keeping Shabbos for the last 50 days. This guy. The last 6, 7, 8 weeks, he and his family have been keeping Shabbos. He had to call out, what do I do? Like, how do I do this? Right? He didn't know how to make kiddush. Didn't know anything. Right? He said, he was talking about Yechidah Shabbat Nefesh. That's what it is. So here the Rabbi just said that when that V'zeu and this, now the Rabbi is going to explain. Zeh Poda besholom nafshi mikravli ki berabim hayu imodi. The shalom shel a buter, this shalom of the buter, the rectification, shall yedei aveda the berabim hayu imodi, by virtue of the aveda of berabim hayu imodi, which is his other yechidah. The arousal of Yechidah Shebenefesh. And again, I'm saying it again, I've said 40 times already, but Seder, we have to remember, the Chiddush in this Maimer in Ois Gimel, it was an amazing Chiddush, that the arousal of Yechidah Shebenefesh does not mean that the Jew all of a sudden is on this unbelievable level of reality where all he experiences is Elokus. It is simply, I mean, it's still not simple, but it's something that's shaykh to every single one of us. He should be misbeinen in the fact that he has a level of neshama called Yechidah Shebenefesh, which is that level of him which is essentially connected to the Eibishter and indivisible from the Eibishter, and nothing can separate that part of him from the Eibishter. No Aveder can cause him to be farther away. No mitzvah can bring him closer, because he's essentially that. Someone with DNA for black hair, if he dyes his hair black, his DNA didn't become blacker. His DNA is what it is. Also, if he dyes his hair blonde, his DNA didn't become blonde. His DNA is what it is. Right? That's etzem and neshama. When he realizes that there's such a level and he wants to act in accordance with that level, then his padiyah will be besholom. When a person reaches that level, who b'shleimus, so then this shalom is complete. And we said earlier, kanal sifa, we're going to quote that in 3 words. Shekailo, this includes shtei amailers, both advantages. What are the 2 advantages? Bittul milamayla lamata, a certain change milamata lamayla, but that change we said is not complete. It's not a change of bittul. There's still an nefesh b'amis. It's just slightly more edel, but it could always go back to where it was, right? Meaning it's just been convinced. It's like the prosecuting attorney who's been convinced he's maskim to the defending attorney, and therefore in this case he'll say innocent. But what if new evidence came? He could change his mind. He's still a kategar. He's still a prosecutor. That through this avodah b'rabbi mayu imadi, and what's that? He's yechido, the aroused yechido, mizgale. It's revealed. What's revealed? This is such an amazing. The Rebbe is explaining this al piseichel, based on what we just said. Those sparks that are found in the golus b'rishus harabim hayu imadi, in the realm of the many. What's revealed? Hadratza and vachuka shalem lisbader, their desire and longing to be elevated. Meaning, if there's a revelation from above of the Yechidah that affects the below and changes the below, b'pnimius, that the below now wants to be elevated and connected to the above. Not only is it in a state of bittul, what did we say before? And we'll bring the example of the revelation. This was in our mind, the revelation of Chayah Shabbanefesh. In the revelation of Chayah Shabbanefesh, the Rabbi said what? That the Ratzon of the Nefesh Elokis is mevatel and overcomes the Ratzon of the Nefesh Abamis. There's a revelation of that level of neshama, so then my desire is Elokus. Now, does that mean that my Nefesh Abamis is changed? No. It's just but. At this particular point, it's dormant. What's going to happen? Well, when this inspiration leaves, so then it'll come back in full force. Maybe even more powerful than it was before. The mashal, Mighty Shabbos. Right? After the revelation of Shabbos, when there's a diminishing of the kayach and the ratzon of the Nefesh Abamis, so Mighty Shabbos comes back with the bren. Right? Very excited, the Nefesh Abamis. Yay, it's my time again. Right, okay, and Mitzvah Shabbos is a time that a lot of people have real challenges in trying to do something positive. What do? Sit down at a Malava Malka, right, have a hot cup of tea, right, to do things that are positive, to overcome the tremendous kayach of the Nefesh Bahami. Says it's chayziv v'nir, it's re-aroused, wakes up again. Of ches. By virtue of the revelation of Yechidah Shabbanefesh. Bottle, it's changed from above. It's changed of its desire to be what it truly is. You and I can affect the world as the world wants to be mizbater, so to speak. That spark of godliness is desirous of reconnecting to its source. So even though the avodah is milamayla lamata, the lamata changed. V'lochein, let's just read that again. 5 lines down, 6 lines down, 5 lines down after the parentheses. Lochein gama biru b'derech milamayla lamata, even the rectification from above below, yesh be'me'ain, it has something similar to hamayla, the advantage, shehabira mishum mitzad tachton, the beer of the tachton. And what was the advantage of the beer of the tachton? Made serious changes in what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, what I'm saying. Let's get to the period. The next line we'll stop and we'll finish the mimer tomorrow. Ki gam bidur zeh hu shatachton reitzel lizbarer. Because also this beer, the tachton wants to be elevated. Mitzad the tachton, the advantage of the avodah from below is found in the revelation from above. The Rabbi just explained al pi seichel. Elo shabir b'feil. How do you do it b'feil? It happened by virtue of the revelation from above, but the below has been changed. So the next thing we have to see, okay, so then how does the avodah from below incorporate also the bittul from the revelation from above? Because that was the advantage of the avodah from below is I changed the below. Not completely, but I bring about real change. Whatever I've learned, whatever I've worked on, so it's incorporated into who I am. I've changed. Right? But there's not necessarily any bittul. Still nefesh b'hamis there, just slightly more edel, which is very important. It's incredibly important, but still a nefesh b'hamis. So how's there in the avodah from below the revelation from above? We'll have to see that tomorrow. Now we have a l'chaim tonight. We have a vort tonight for our son. I have no idea when this is going to end. So, meaning, is it turning into a verbrengen or is it going to stay a vort? I don't know. It depends how many bachrim show up. Right? So the bachrim turn it into a verbrengen. The old guys, we say a little l'chaim, and I have to give a speech. I'm not going to give a speech. I'll say over something from the Rabbi. Say that I have to talk. My son will say a mimer. There'll be the official part. Will make a kinyan, and then blah blah blah. The flowers will be there. I have to go get the flowers at 2:30, and Geula go get the flowers and take them home in a cab without getting soaking wet. By having this thing this big of flowers on my lap that has water in the bottom, and then we'll see if I can pull that off. To remember before I leave the yeshiva to take some of that white plastic they put on the tables. I'll take that with me and spread it out because the cab doesn't want his cab covered with my water either. And so there'll be all that stuff. Will it turn into a chassidische verbrengen? So I don't know. I mean, it can, because it's